This is the Customer Experience Show. Join us every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on blogtalkradio.com as our panel of experts engages with leaders in the field of customer experience for a half hour of discussion that's interactive and often provocative. It's a place to test out new ideas and maybe discover some classic wisdom. And it's your chance to be heard. You can submit your own questions or guest suggestions at our blog, improvingcustomerexperience.com. After all, you're the customer. Welcome, and fasten your seatbelt, because ready or not, here comes the customer experience.
Boy, that intro would give me goosebumps if it wasn't me. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back to another episode of the Customer Experience Show. Welcome back. This is a welcome back edition. We have Robert Levine, our inveterate guest panelist, with us, and back for another episode. Good to hear you back, Robert. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Always great to be here.
And Michelle Romanica, our producer, who keeps us all honest, keeps us all moving. Michelle, welcome.
Oh, good morning.
Great. And this week we have another welcome back. We are lucky to have Anand Pillai. As those of you who listen to the show will remember him. He's the Senior Vice President and Global Head of Talent Transformation for HCL Technologies. If you follow the show, you'll have listened to the interview we did with Anand last week on HCL's unique approach to customer experience. I think we can sum it up with their CEO, Vineet Nayar's famous phrase now, employees first, customers second. Now, if that seems controversial or strange to you and you haven't listened to last week's show, I urge you to do that. I suggest it might change the way you think. But even then, I guarantee it will challenge you. And now, even though HCL's approach has been written about, it's been focused on, if you listen to the show, you found it's also the subject of a best-selling book. We found out last week's show it was a bold and controversial move when the CEO, Vineet Nayar, stood up in front of a group of shocked clients and announced this for the first time. And that took real courage and real leadership. And that's one of the things I think, from my study of HCL, you can agree or disagree with their philosophy, but you can't disagree with the leadership they show, especially, and not only at the CEO level, but throughout the company. So that led us to this show. And I'll wrap this up quickly and invite our guests back in. But as we pursued our investigation and our conversations about customer experience over the year or so we've been doing the show, we found some common characteristics of companies that are excellent in this area. And one of these, certainly a very important one, is leadership. And we've learned that leadership is a prerequisite to great customer experience. And we've also learned, and many of you might have learned, most of the old models just don't cut it. But let's be honest here. You can read all the articles and books you want. Everybody's got a great idea, and I'm a consultant myself. Consultants have great ideas about this. But we want to talk about things the way they work in the real world on the show. So this week, we'd like to dive deeper and have that in-depth discussion about new leadership models and models from the real world. And what better person to ask back than Anand, who's also, you talked to us last week about their employees first, customer second. I can't even say that approach. But he's also the head of talent transformation, intrapreneurship development, and heads up a number of transformation initiatives at HCL. So we're going to dive into that. Welcome back to the panel. Welcome back, Anand. Good to see you, and good to meet you again on the phone.
Thank you.
Is probably the best way. So let's just, those who know the show know we don't do transitions very well. That's the intro. Now we're going to dive in. So fasten your seatbelts, as we say. HCL Technologies, we learned last week, you've gone through some massive changes since your CEO took over in 2005, I think it is, and your business model is being studied around, as I said in the intro. Let's dive in, and you can agree with or take me up on my introduction, but what do you think, did I get it right? Are the leadership models the important thing, and what are the most important characteristics of the leadership model that you've implemented?
The first thing that we did is we inverted our traditional pyramid. Rather than having the CEO at the top, we inverted the pyramid and put actually employees at the top, and gave them the focus, gave them the empowerment, gave them the engagement, and gave them the equipment that is necessary for them to serve each one of the layers above. So we had an inverted pyramid philosophy where every leader was asked the question, why are you existing in your position? Are you existing in your position to create more power, or is it to serve the employees whom you're working with? And so the inverting of the pyramid was the first thing that we did to bring about a change in the leadership. The second thing, if you remember last week also, we got into this briefly. We asked ourselves 4 questions, beginning with what is it that enables us to be different in the world or in the service industry. And we answered by saying that by adding value. And as we went deep down, we found that it was employees who are adding the value. So if employees are adding the value, what is my role? My role is basically to step out of the way and engage, enable, and empower. So we brought about that change in the mindset of the leaders where we convinced and brought about the deep conviction in the entire leadership fabric that we are here to serve our employees. And quite strangely, when we did that, the employees turned around and said, yes, thank you for that, and we are here to serve the customers. So even though the title of our philosophy said employees first, customers second, it actually meant employees first so that employees could put the customers first.
You brought up a very interesting point with the inverting of the pyramid. And, you're a very large organization. You're an organization that has, offices around the world. The nice thing that I always pick up from this one is you freed it so that the employees are able to treat the customer first because they're being taken care of. You've had scenarios where, you've had management team that has been there for a while. You've had employees that have been there for a while. We all get stuck in our ways. We all hear that change is the hardest thing to do. Can you maybe walk me through, not necessarily mentioning name, but very specific examples of maybe one on the management side and one on the employee side, where you either yourself or someone in your team has helped them transition into that mindset? Maybe walk through some of that cultural transition so that people like us can maybe learn from that and potentially do it ourselves.
Yes. So what we did was to make things simpler, we came out with what we call a PPT approach. We introduced a set of practices, we introduced a set of processes, and we introduced a set of tools that anybody can absorb and implement. I'll give you examples of them. We introduced a practice of having one-on-one conversations irrespective of the hierarchy with everybody. It's an open house discussion. The CEO started it by having a portal where anybody can post him questions, and we in turn had to do the same, both online as well as face-to-face meeting. And this happens once in a year for a period of 3.5 hours right across the globe. And it's a logistical nightmare, but definitely we are doing that. So that's a practice that was done where all the senior managers were interacting, and by way of doing this, they got to hear firsthand from the employees what the challenges were, what the concerns were, and what the ideas were. The second thing that we did was, rather than going by the conventional measure of using employees' engagement survey or employee satisfaction survey to measure the health of the organization, we came about with a very innovative tool called the Employee Passion Survey, where we measure the passion drivers of the employees and get to understand what motivates them, what drives them. Based on that Chinese proverb that I mentioned earlier last week, find a job that you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. So once we got to understand the passion drivers of employees, we could structure meaningful conversations around that. And the third thing that we did also was this entire refocusing on the 360-degree feedback, where we said, listen, we will post the results of the 360-degree feedback on the intranet, bringing in a new level of transparency, and therefore adding another dimension of accountability to our employees. So these are some of the things that we did in terms of processes, which were scalable right across the organization. And once we brought in this awareness to the employees, they themselves got to buy into this concept, and they were our biggest evangelists.
Can I just jump in for a second? And you talked about this 360-degree thing, and I'm going to be honest. The first time I got a 360 with my employees, it scared the crap out of me. It's probably the technical term for it. I found it really disconcerting and a big change as a manager. I would buy into it now, but I found it scary. Did you have to prepare your management team for that, for a change in attitude? Was that part of? Did you detect that?
Yes, we had to do that. We had to prepare the management for a change in attitude, because we said if we are going to be tackling challenges that our employees are basically confronted with, we have to be open and transparent with them. So we definitely brought about a change in the mindset. We got there, and it was a lead by example scenario where the CEO himself got his 360-degree posted live on the intranet for everyone in the organization. At that point in time when we did it, we were about 55,000 employees. Now we are 82,000 employees. So the CEO was open for scrutiny by those 55,000 employees. And seeing the positive response that came about as a result of this high degree of transparency, every one of the other reporting managers voluntarily started sharing their feedback. Sure, there is an element of subjectivity, but we took away that subjectivity by making it common for all. So whatever I have as a weakness, there are others also who are having as a weakness.
My goodness. It boggles me, because when I sit here and I think of the size of the company, 82,000 people spread out across the world. I mean, when you were in your boardroom and you came up with this, okay, wait a minute, where's the value being created? It's in the hands of the employee. And you realize you have to turn the company, head on its feet. Where do you start?
Well, we started in our blueprint session. We started by inviting blueprint as our strategy planning session. We invited, unlike conventional strategic planning, where we invite only the top management, we invited functional leaders at all levels, top management, middle management, and even junior management. When we took the decisions and we explained this concept, it was that much more easier because they went and cascaded it at their own levels right across, rather than we doing a top-down push. So there was a greater buy-in because many of the implementers were part of the decision themselves.
Wow. So you started with your strategy in this, and
yeah,
how
we
many people
started with in the strategy session by having stakeholders at all levels of management, so that they in turn can go and tell their own colleagues rather than their subordinates.
Amazing. I'm sitting here just daydreaming of the complexity and how you got everyone to come on board with this is just absolutely amazing. It's wonderful. Where were some of the biggest obstacles for you, though?
Actually, I looked at, obstacles. I don't think we had any obstacles per se, but we had challenges. And our biggest challenge, and it continues to be a challenge, is how do you manage scale and diversity? Because when we started, we were predominantly an India-based company. Now we are operating in, at that time we were operating in about 19 countries. Now we are operating in 35 countries. And at that time, over 92% of our employees were of Indian origin. Today, just about 82 or 83% of our employees are of Indian origin, and more than anything, we are decreasing this particular percentage. So our big challenge is how do you manage diversity? How do you manage the scale? We were at that time 55,000 employees. Now we are about 88,000 employees, and we are increasing. How do you manage multiple practice lines? How do you get to inculcate this culture into the new employees who are coming in? We are adding in about 20% of our employees on a year-on-year basis. So this has been our biggest challenge, and courtesy the tools and processes that we have been able to come out with, we are able to manage the scale. But still, diversity is something that we are confronted with, and we don't have clear-cut answers, but we know that we have some answers. What works in America is not necessarily working in Europe or possibly Japan, the two distinct cultures, and therefore we have had to make some customizations in the way we roll out, not so much in the process.